Following that story, we'll go to her later on. But let's continue with our top story, and that is, of course, the killing of Yahya Sinwar. We're going to be joined now by Antony Loewenstein. He's an independent journalist and the author of the Palestine Laboratory. He was also based in occupied East Jerusalem between 2016 and 2020. Anthony, always good to speak to you on the News Hour. Now, does Sinwar's killing open the door to a hostage deal like the US is wanting, or will Netanyahu now see this as a way to further hit Hamas's military structure?
I think it's likely to be the latter. And although obviously it's possible with the new Hamas leader and potential international pressure, of course, when we say international pressure, that basically means Washington, the only country that really can influence Israel. And it's really unclear, frankly, how many Israeli hostages are alive. I mean, we could be talking 20, 30 tops. And of course, Hamas will correctly ask for an exchange of the huge numbers of Palestinians that are kept essentially hostage in Israeli prisons, many of whom have been tortured since October 7, and many of them have been in jails long before then. I mean, ultimately, I think Israel sees Hamas and Hezbollah in Lebanon weakened. It's probably true, both of them are for now, but as I've been saying for a long time, the idea somehow that Israel believes that you can kill its leaders, Hamas, Hezbollah, and somehow be more secure in the region, in the Middle East, is delusional. Israel's been killing Hamas and Hezbollah leaders and other leaders for literally decades, frankly, most of its existence. And none of it has brought it greater safety and security. In fact, if anything, I would argue Israel's strategic position in the Middle East has worsened, far worsened, in the last 12 or so months. Yes, you have some Arab elites who are a big fan of Israel and want to befriend them, the so-called Abraham Accords, to maybe extend those. Saudi Arabia and Israel apparently are still talking about that, but that's at the elite level. I'm talking about at the majority person level. After the destruction and mass slaughter in the last 12 months, far, far more people loathe Israel than did 12 months ago.
Mm-hmm. Anthony, but then why does Israel continue with this, continue with wanting to take out leaders from Hezbollah, from Hamas, from anyone else that they deem as enemies, knowing that it is not changing the situation, knowing that it hasn't changed the situation, as you have said, for decades? So why continue with this when it then just seems to make the problem even worse?
I think there's two reasons for that. One, it's been in Israel's DNA literally since the beginning. In fact, even before Israel's existence, there was a belief that you needed to try to crush militarily your enemy, the so-called enemy, Palestinians or other Arabs, even though there's a clear awareness, at least amongst some smarter Israelis, that it's a failing policy. I think also there's something to believe in the idea that endless war suits Israel. It suits America. It suits many countries. Endless war meaning keeping your public on edge, keeping your public scared, and the idea that a savior will come along. And Netanyahu, of course, will frame himself as that savior, hoping all Israelis somehow forget, which they don't, the complete collapse of any kind of military or intelligence force on October 7 last year, that Netanyahu, again, according to Israeli polls, would probably win an election if it was held today with his coalition. So he believes politically that ongoing endless war is the so-called solution. And also, let's be clear, no one is stopping Israel. It's not as if Israel somehow has to think so much about what its allies, namely the US and Europe, think. They're giving Israel carte blanche to do pretty much what it wants. Israel sees what's happening here, Hamas leader dying, killing, and many other opportunities, as a chance to redraw the region, the map in the Middle East, in the deluded belief that somehow will in the end bring them greater safety, security. But in fact, it's the opposite. Israel's becoming much more of a ghetto, higher walls, more security, more militarization, frankly, more racism against Arabs and Palestinians. It's the opposite. And also, frankly, endangering many Jews around the world, including myself and many others. So it's a deluded belief, but they're being indulged by that thought by, frankly, many of the Western leaders.
And then allowed to act without impunity. Antony Loewenstein in Sydney, always good to speak to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.